We normally start our meetings with a prayer. If you're able, I'd ask you to stand at this time and ask Councilmember Tom Rogers to lead us in prayer.
Dear God, we seek your blessings on the task before us today. Pray that you would bless our efforts today with clear insight, our deliberations with wisdom, our work with clarity and accuracy, and our decisions with impartiality. This is my prayer. Amen.
That's the second one. Call the roll.
Councilmember Knight.
Here.
Blackwell.
Here.
Joyner.
Here.
Watkins. Here. Rogers.
Here.
Bullock.
Here.
And Miller.
Here.
If you just came in, or when you came in, there's an agenda over here in the box. Do go by the item number. If there weren't enough to share, enough in the box, we'd ask you to share with your neighbor. At this time, we're on item number 4, approval of the minutes of our regular scheduled meeting of the City Council, which was held on September the 9th, 2019. If there are no changes or additions to those minutes, then I would recommend approving the minutes as they stand.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Item number 5, again, this is consideration of minutes and recommendations from the regular committee of the whole meeting, which was held on September the 9th, 2019. We had a closed session, attorney-client privilege. The remaining items on the agenda were not read, so we didn't do anything except have the attorney-client privilege meeting. Recommended action is to approve the minutes. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember Miller, second by Councilmember Joyner. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Item 5 is approved. At this time, I'm going to call on our city manager for a community update.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Mayor and members of council, this afternoon we have a very short presentation of a newly developed website for downtown, and the presentation will be made by Kevin Harris, who is our small business and downtown development manager.
Thank you and good evening. Hi.
You want to stand up so everybody can hear you? Okay. You can sit down. When you start, that's working for me.
Again, I'm Kevin Harris, and welcome and thank you for the opportunity. This we have a new website for downtown, and we endeavor to make it more. Well, one, we want more features, and then more resources and tools that will be available. Also, make it more user-friendly and more attractive, more vibrant. Thank you. I need more hands. So I'll roll through it. Okay, thank you. And as before, the link
Sit down
to
now, Kevin, that's fine. I just wanted to get while you were speaking.
Okay.
Speaking and sit behind you. Thank you.
all right. Well, the link is in the place where it always was at the on the home site at the bottom, this bottom tab, downtown tab. There we go. And you can see, well, right away, it hopefully you see that you have a larger image in the beginning, and it's welcome to the center of Rocky Mount. And these images, they scroll back and forth, but you can see we are the talk about the center of events, and okay. And in the Explore, I'll just go straight to the Explore drop down initially. And in the Explore drop-down initially, we're featuring, we list dining and socializing, district maps, Douglas Block, and let me go back to the front page. So on the front page, one, you see the columns on the left, or these soft items, news, dining and socializing, festivals, events, and farmers market. On the right side, I want to bring your attention to these boxes here. They will stay with you as you go through the website. And the first box, here's the barbecue throwdown, but it is this is where we'll have our primary or main events. And below that is the downtown map, and I want to bring your attention to that. So when we didn't have this feature before, so we have the downtown map that is the interactive map that gives you direction, but you'll see that we also have technical maps that will be beneficial to those that need those. But so I'll, for instance, the barbecue throwdown will take you to its page, and where there's a wealth of information, and it was and we utilizing videos on most of our sites now that we didn't in the past. And I scrolled down, and for a minute there I thought that was Charles Penny, but it's not. And so all the information you want, you'll see on the barbecue throwdown. And then, so here's the map, and we like this feature. And it takes a little while to load. There's a lot of information that will be made available to you. So here you'll see in this map, it shows you these points where the ATMs are, bus spots and parking, fire, and points of interest, and that's where I want to focus. So, for instance, and they're color-coded, so the first one, if it's yellow, that's going to be art, music, and entertainment. Green is food and beverage. Red is shopping. Blue is spas. And for instance, if we go up, and I'll just pick one, and I'll pick a food and beverage location. And this first location, you can't see it, but it's Mo and D's restaurant. And just so happened to find that one. And you can, and once we hit more information, it will take you to their site. And so, these things do take a little while to move. So just wanted you to see that. And again, a point of interest, just so you can see that as well. Here. So this is the Brass Memorial Library. So just so you can see, you have a point of interest. So I'll move back to the main page. And then we have the properties available for sale downtown. And so we have a listing of properties available for sale or lease downtown, and they're also marked on a map above, but then more detail is provided for each of those properties. And you actually can, and if you go into business development, you can see you can actually submit your property. So if you have a property in the downtown location that you would like to list for sale or lease, you can submit it through this process online. And you also can submit the pictures as well. Downtown Spotlight, this is a new one where we will rotate downtown businesses. And so, for instance, for this first round, we have Knapp's Deli, Ben and Barrel, Mo and D's Restaurant, and as I mentioned, we're using videos more so. And so Ben and Barrel, for instance, we have information about their location, and then we'll have a video feature for each one of these. And I'll just show this for a second. And, well, let's take a peek at Knapp's Deli. We are excited about this, being able to feature these downtown businesses. Okay, and I'll try to blow through. There's a lot of information embedded in our website, so I won't cover it all. And then events, we have we list here. We have the Christmas parade and barbecue throwdown, and then this is a link to the Rocky Mountain Event Center, where once again it will lead you to their site where you'll see all of their activities. Then there's the business development drop-down where we have the available properties, but we also have separate sites for for Carolinas Gateway Partnership, CCRP, or Central City Revitalization Panel, Chamber of Commerce, Community Business Resources, incentives, and again, where you submit your properties. As I mentioned, these sites on the right, they will follow you wherever you go on each page. And one of the other features that stays with you is this business directory. And it's loading. But that business directory, it lists all of our downtown businesses and resources. And they're substantial. And here you can use this feature at the bottom just to select a page, or you can just turn it page by page and see the services in alphabetical order. And as I said, there's several businesses downtown and growing, and we're excited about that. On the next tab is news again, and that's what's updated news, and it scrolls down. It doesn't fall off, so you'll see some stuff that's dated if you go to the bottom. But you know, as you put new information up, the old information falls off. But you can see and we're excited about offering the roof replacement and repair grant, the barbecue throwdown, and Larima's Coffee House. They had a grand opening on Friday, and I say Saturday because I got an image of them Saturday night, which was very exciting, where they were up and running and had a lot of activity Saturday night downtown, and so that is a big deal. And we did want to talk about Meet the Purchaser. We had an event for women and minority business enterprises, which was on Friday, September 20th, and with another one coming. And so this is our site. I won't take a lot of time, but I just wanted to appreciate the city manager giving us the opportunity to show it off.
And Kevin, one more time, because some people are coming in, how do you get to this site? You go to the city's main site?
You go to the city's main site. Let's see, let me get there. I think we'll go here. Oh, here we go. Yeah, you go to the city's main site, and there's a tab at the bottom of that main site, downtown tab. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, Kevin. Again, a lot of good information there, and I'm sure you'll be adding to it and changing it as the need calls for it. At this time, we have a number of presentations, about 5 of them, I believe. The first one is a presentation of a proclamation proclaiming the week of October 6th through the 12th, 2019 as Public Power and Public Natural Gas Week in the city. To Energy Resource Department staff in a minute. I'm going to ask maybe Michael Winkler, Brandon Walter, Daryl Struthers, and Chris Bachelor's here tonight. But if not, we'd ask the others to come down and accept this. This is a proclamation of the city of Rocky Mount, whereas we, the citizens of Rocky Mount, North Carolina, place a high value on local control over community services, and therefore have chosen to operate a community-owned, locally controlled, not-for-profit electric and natural gas utility, and as consumers and owners of our electric and natural gas utility have a direct say in utility operations and policy. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but we are doing this in order to honor the city of Rocky Mount for its contribution to the community, its commitment to making consumer owners, policymakers, and employees more aware of its overall contributions to the community, and to make consumers, owners, policymakers, and employees more aware of the city of Rocky Mount's overall contributions to their well-being through the Public Power and Public Natural Gas Week. So at this time, I'd ask Michael, Brandon, Daryl to come down front and receive this. And if there's anyone else you want to come down, I know we just have a picture downstairs, but it's up to you. Thank you. Let's give them applause for the work they're doing. This next one is a proclamation, and again, we're going to present this to, as the Community Planning Month in the city of Rocky Mount. We're going to present this to the Department of Developmental Services. Will Deaton and any of your staff, if you'd like to come down, I'd ask you to come down at this time. And as they come up, I'll just read part of this. Whereas change is constant and affects all cities, towns, suburbs, counties, boroughs, townships, and rural areas. Whereas community planning and plans can help manage this change in a way that provides better choices for how people work, live, and play. Whereas community planning provides an opportunity for all residents to be meaningfully involved in making choices that determine the future of their community. And so at this time, I'd like to present this to Will and his staff on Community Planning Month in the city of Rocky Mount. Let's give them a round of applause. This next presentation, some of you have been to our Senior Citizen Center. If you hadn't, I invite you to visit it. It's used daily by a lot of citizens here in Rocky Mount, our senior citizens, and so it's a great asset to the city of Rocky Mount. So at this point in time, this presentation proclaiming the month of September as Senior Center Month in the city of Rocky Mount. I'm going to ask Joel Dunn and Rebecca Morgan to come down and accept this on behalf of the Senior Center Manager and Senior Center members. As we're getting settled here, I just read this. Whereas we, the citizens of Rocky Mount, North Carolina, recognize older Americans are significant members of our society, investing their wisdom and experience to help enrich and better the lives of younger generations. Whereas the City of Rocky Mount Senior Center has acted as a catalyst for mobilizing creativity, energy, vitality, and commitment of the older residents of Rocky Mount. And whereas through the wide array of services, programs, and activities, the Rocky Mount Senior Center empowers older citizens of Rocky Mount and the surrounding community to contribute to their health and well-being and the health and well-being of their fellow citizens of all ages. So at this point in time, I want to present this Senior Center Month in the city of Rocky Mount to honor the Rocky Mount Senior Center and its participants and staff. I'll present this to Joe or to Rebecca. Again, let's give them a round of applause. I don't think you have to be a senior citizen to facility, and hopefully all of you will visit it at some point. This next one, we've got two more here, is the presentation of a proclamation proclaiming the month of October 2019 as Breast Cancer Awareness Month in the city of Rocky Mount. And I'm going to present this to Elaine Henderson, Director of Human Resources, if she is present. Elaine, are you here? Again, I just want to read part of this, and there's so many people in this room and that probably have been impacted by breast cancer. Certainly I've been, my wife, and so it is something that's special to me for this proclamation. Whereas the city of Rocky Mount, North Carolina is committed to raising awareness about breast cancer and the impact it has on our loved ones, friends, colleagues, and community members, whereas thousands of women and men in our country are diagnosed with breast cancer each year, whereas screening and early detection can help people overcome breast cancer, and whereas we acknowledge the importance of raising awareness of breast cancer in order to support survivors, those currently battling breast cancer, and those who might detect it in its early stages. And whereas the city of Rocky Mount, North Carolina encourages employees to show their support during the month of October by wearing pink ribbons of support. So at this time, I'd like to present this to Elaine for Breast Cancer Awareness Month in the city of Rocky Mount.
Two shots. Three, two, and smile for me. 3, 2, and.
Let's give Elaine a hand. We have one more tonight, and again, this is a presentation of proclamation proclaiming September 15th, 2019 through October the 15th, 2019 as Hispanic Heritage Month in the city of Rocky Mount. And I'm going to ask Matiza Mata Davenport to come up if you're here. And I hope I got that close to being right. Good, good. As she's coming up, I'll read this. It says, whereas each year from the 15th of September to the 15th of October, National Hispanic Heritage Month is celebrated throughout the United States. Whereas Hispanics comprise roughly 9.6% of the population of the state of North Carolina as of 2018 and have both an integral and necessary community in our state. Whereas Edgecombe County and Nash County's population are roughly 4.8% and 7.1% Hispanic respectively as of 2018. Whereas the city of Rocky Mount openly welcomes and supports its distinct cultural diversity. Now, at this point, I'd like to present this Hispanic Heritage Month Award to let's give her a applause. As they slowly exit, I'm going to go ahead and read this. We're at item number 8, petitions to be received from the public. And I always read this statement. This is petitions from the public portion of our city council meeting. It is an opportunity for the public comment, and we thank you for coming to the city council meeting to share your views. We do value your input. If you'd like to address the council, you need to sign up, and if you did not get a form, someone will bring it to you. Any comments should be directed to the council as a whole and not to individual council members or staff. It is your opportunity to raise a question or present a request to the council. However, in most cases, council members will not respond to public comments, but may refer the matter to the city manager or staff. We ask you to come up, speak from the podium. Personal attacks which have the potential to disrupt the meeting will not be tolerated. Your time will be monitored, and we'll give you 3 minutes and give you a heads up at about 2.5 minutes. At this time, our first person is Dr. Koo, and then after that we have Nehemiah Smith Jr. So Dr. Koo, Nehemiah, and then Samuel Battle.
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Koo and I live in 220 South Englewood Drive. My recent utility statement is accompanied by the monthly newsletter proudly announcing the 12th annual East Carolina Barbecue Throwdown, scheduled to take place on October 11th and 12th. The event is touted to celebrate Public Power and Natural Gas Week. I have problems with such an event using my tax dollars. Last Friday's global climate strike showed 500 million people taking to the streets from Karachi to Kampala, New York City to Los Angeles. Altogether, 150 countries participated to bring to the attention of the world that we all need to take climate change seriously. And to their credit, young people are taking the lead in this struggle. They recognize that unless something is done and soon, they and those who come after them have no future. Yet here I am looking at a flyer from City Hall, announcing the celebration of the continued use of fossil fuels, disguising itself as natural gas. Natural gas is mainly methane, and it contributes in a major way to global warming, about 30 to 40 times more than carbon dioxide as a greenhouse gas. Maybe Council does not believe in the environmental crisis, or is it an intentional avoidance of the issue, like the avoidance of our petition several times to receive the support for the Atlantic Coast Pipeline? At the very least, the event should be changed to a celebration of Earth Day. This is the time when Council can indicate it is aware of this major problem. Hurricanes are said to be growing like cockroaches. Rocky Mount had already been devastated from severe rainstorms to major hurricanes. Are we expected to just pick up the pieces, start again, and pretend to carry on as business as usual? The second contradiction I find in the newsletter is the information that as a stockholder of the city's public power, I benefited from this service. I can unequivocally tell you that a utility bill of over $400 this month and last month is not a benefit. Because I know that people in Durham are paying less than $100 a month for their utility bills. So please think about this. Thank you.
Thank you. Nehemiah, and then Samuel Battle.
Good afternoon. A few days ago, a candidate for council said to me, Nehemiah, sometimes when you get up to speak at council meetings, I say to myself, I wish he would shut up and sit down. Why, I asked. Because you always talk about race, white and black. Of course, I took exceptions. I talk about potholes too. But at that moment, I realized that we must address the racial divide in our city. At the core of every major issue in this city is race. Sue Perry talks to us about fair and affordable housing, race. Dr. Koo talks to us about environmental and employment issues, race. The issue of race divides us economically, socially, religiously, politically. However, no one wants to address it, the basis of America's original sin. But Rocky Mount is a small enough lab to deal with the issue and perhaps settle it once and for all, at least in our city. And perhaps our solutions can and will benefit the society at large. If we refuse to deal with it or continue to ignore the fact that it exists, we are held accountable. When it explodes and causes irrevocable damage, oh well. British theologian Richard Hooker said, and I quote, "Change is not made without inconvenience, even from worse to better," end quote. Therefore, to survive the vicissitudes of life, we must survive its ups and downs, its successes and upheavals, and with special emphasis on what may be necessary inconveniences. Thank you, and continue doing the good work that you do.
Daniel Battle, and then William O'Keefe.
Good evening, Council. I'm gonna do something a little different today because it's about the citizens. The council told me probably 2 weeks ago, last month, that he didn't see me out here saving no kids. In 2013, I saved a child, was shot 9 times in week Armstrong Projects. And it was gang related. It's on the 911 call in 2013. Yeah, I saved the kid because when the kid, the ambulance guy, they was trying to go to sleep. And I kept hitting him in his face and kept him woke. And the ambulance said, "Thank you for doing that, because he probably would have passed away if he went to sleep." The event center. I just want to find out who's taking money from the event center. $49 million event center, people stealing money. What's going on? The third thing that the council, I want to know, did the city own OIC, the building? I just want to know that. Do they own it? I need y'all to address that when I get through. I want to know, do they own it? Because 2 years ago, y'all put $1 million in their AC unit. And Booker T. Washington is owned by the city. The kids are still sweating over there. My grandson played basketball over last week. He got sickle cell, you know. His nose was bleeding. It was too hot in there. We still haven't addressed that issue yet. Guys, we are wearing too many hats up here. Wearing too many hats. You can't serve us. You gotta wear one hat to serve the community. We wearing too many hats. And that's how I feel about this situation. You give the citizens a chance for y'all to represent one thing, not 1, 2, 3. Because you got people who got a problem with the city, and they go to another organization. You cannot help them because it's been biased to one organization you represent. So people want you to wear one hat. And the vice president of the NAACP,
You got about 30 seconds.
Mr. Dancy.
Again, don't call on individual people.
Well, okay then, it's a prestige association. We are spending too much venom at our own people. Mr. Pittman goes to his house, he got cats dead on his porch.
Mr. Battle, you keep running to different people.
Yeah,
And we
well,
ask you not to do that.
well, people running for city council, they got dead animals on their front porch. So, man.
Time's up, Mr. Battle. William O'Keefe?
Yeah, William O'Keefe, I live at 1120 Massey Lane. I left the last council meeting, September 9th, very hurt and angered. At the beginning of the meeting, you spoke of the 400 years of slavery and the 40 years of old sanitation strike. For this, you asked for a moment's silence and remembrance in the opening prayer. At no point in this meeting was it ever mentioned that 2 days following is September 11th, 9/11. No silence, no prayer for these lives lost that day. Their families, or for those that are still dying from the effects of that day and those that still follow. Maybe it's because I lived there at the time. Maybe it's because I was at ground zero days after it happened. Maybe it's because I have a brother-in-law who was a fireman there who, 18 years later, still suffers from PTSD. I've come to feel that too many people have become complacent to what happened in this country that day. 3 days later in the paper, there is a story of the first responder memorial wall dedication. Not until the last paragraph on page 5. In related news, Rocky Mount Mayor David Combs issued a statement Wednesday proclaiming September 11th, 2019 as Patriot Day in the city of Rocky Mount. In this proclamation, Combs called on all citizens of the city of Rocky Mount to join this observation and observe in memory and honor the sacrifices made as a result of the terrorist attacks on September 11th, 2001. Mayor Combs, I'm sorry, but it was just too little, too late. Shame on this council. Thank you. I would like to take the rest of my time to have that moment of silence that wasn't given by this council at that time.
All right. Make some good points, Mr. O'Keefe.
Thank you.
Stacy Grant?
Mayor, City Council, Stacy Graham, 1721 Country Club Road. 2 weeks ago, the Parks and Rec Department put up numerous signs at the dog park saying that Monday between 9 and 11, mowing and maintenance would occur. Tuesday through Friday, 9 to 9:45, trash removal would be occurring, and therefore no owners or dogs would be allowed in the park. Last Tuesday at 7 a.m., to the dismay of many people, the park was closed for mowing. When questioned, the supervisor said that they didn't care what the signs said. The city posted the signs, and I am asking you to comply with what your signs said. The easy things should be easy, but for some reason, Rocky Mount continues to dismay me with making some of these things harder than they should be. And it's to the detriment of your reputation and your public relations. So please, hold true to the signs that you posted.
Thank you. Leroy Williams?
Good afternoon. My name is Leroy Williams. The subject is unity. I'm sure and hope that everyone is aware that G.K. Butterfield endorsed H.R. 40, the study of reparations. I have lived since 1954 through Jim Crow, redlining, and sharecropping. In this city, advocates for unity, a fix for the city's concern on crime, poverty, and for non-gentrification. A debt owed to American descendants of slavery, ADOS, referenced by one Democratic candidate, Mary Ann Williamson, running for POTUS, referenced $200 to $500 million, and an economist from Duke University, Sandy Doherty, has indicated an amount of $17 trillion that's owed to American descendants of slavery, which will serve all in Rocky Mount as a stimulus package. Therefore, I ask the council to draft and form a formal letter to our congressman in Washington, D.C., and note our stance with him to push harder for reparations for descendants of American slavery. The reasons for reparations are numerous: to close the racial wealth gap, to take care of affordable housing. To this, I ask the council to consider. If I'm not asking the right group to help with this matter, please forward the information to me so I may address that group. Thank you so much.
That is the end of our petitions to be received from the public. We're going to move on now to item number 9, it's the consent agenda. A is a consideration of the temporary street closing request from Bob Lee to close Dartmoor Court from 6 to 7:30 for a National Night Out celebration on October the 1st. B is a consideration of the following tax releases and refunds. There was a Schedule A and a Schedule B. And the recommended action is to approve the consent agenda inclusive of the approval of the street closing and tax releases.
Move to approve.
Second. Motion by Councilmember Rogers, second by Councilmember Joyner. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Item 9 is approved. Item 10 is a public hearing relative to fiscal year 2021. It has to do with public transportation grants for funding through the North Carolina Department of Transportation. This is for a portion of our Tar River Transit Administrative Operating and Capital Expenses. Recommended actions to receive public comment and on the sections 5310, 5311, 5339. 2, adopt the resolution, and 3, authorize the mayor and the city clerk to execute the required documentations and certifications, including subsequent grant agreements. This is a public hearing. Is any member of the public wish to speak on this item? And we will have this for each one: 5310, 5311, 5339. Is there anyone that would like to speak on any of these items? If not, the public hearing is closed, and I would consider a motion by the council.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion by Councilmember Watkins, second by Councilmember Miller. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Item 10 is approved. Item 11 is a consideration of 1, rescinding the moratorium on residential demolitions, and 2, ordinances ordering the community code inspector to proceed with demolition of the following dilapidated dwellings. There's a list there. I'm not going to read them all. The recommended action is to rescind the moratorium on residential demolitions, and 2, adopt the ordinances.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Councilmember Knight, second by Councilmember Joyner. Any discussion?
I have a question.
Okay.
Are we still including the photos of the house that are being demolished? We haven't seen, maybe they were included in another package.
I think they probably were included in the package for the committee as a whole.
Okay, thank you.
But we can certainly get your pictures.
Thank you. We are still including the pictures in.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Item 11 is approved. Item 12 is a consideration of an ordinance amending Chapter 5 of the City Code by adding Article 6 entitled Non-Residential Building Maintenance Code. The recommended act establishes a non-residential building maintenance code. The recommended action is to adopt the ordinance.
Move the approval.
Who was the second? Motion by Councilmember Miller, second by Councilmember Joyner. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Item 12 is approved. Item 13 is consideration of fiscal year 2018-19 Down East Home Consortium. So recommended action is to approve the reports and authorize the submission to HUD. I hear a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember Blackwell, second by Councilmember Joyner. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Item 13 is approved. Item 14 is a consideration of 2019-2020 Cape Fear tutoring. It's an annual renewal contract relative to the Child and Adult Care Food Program. The recommended action is to approve the contract as recommended, authorize the mayor and/or appropriate agent to sign the same, including the required certifications on behalf of the city. Hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Joyner, second by Councilmember Blackwell. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Item 14 is approved. Item 15 is a consideration of the following grant applications for North Carolina Department of Commerce. This is a building reuse grant. One is from, A is Babington Technology, it's $200,000. B is Frozen Food Express, $500,000. The recommended action is to approve the grant applications and authorize the mayor to execute the applications on behalf of the city and authorize the submission. And 2, adopt a resolution which authorizes the cash match for the city manager to execute any additional documentation required.
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember Miller. Was that second by Councilmember Knight? Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Item 15 is approved.
Question, not question, but just uplift in the parentheses where you stated, the local match is 12.5, and then it states that it's 20 jobs, and then the other one, the local catch match, is 47,864, and job creation is 559 jobs. So it let you know that this council is concerned about jobs, like so many candidates are saying now. So I just want to make sure that our citizens see that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Did we vote on that? Item 16, so item 15 is approved. Item 16 is consideration of a change order. This is for the Sunset Avenue Water Treatment Plant, service pump number 2. It's replacement with T.A. Loving Company. Recommended action is to approve the change order and authorize the mayor to execute the same on behalf of the city.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Joyner, second by Councilmember Blackwell. Any discussion?
I also just want to make, mention that we do care about our infrastructure and our water and sewer, and that we are funding this project as well. So just want to dispel some of the myths that's been aired in our city. Thank you.
Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Item 16 is approved. Item 16A, we've added to the agenda. This is the consideration of assistance to firefighters. It's a grant, and it will allow each department to be outfitted with heavy-duty washers, dryers, specialized for cleaning turnout gear to remove carcinogens. The recommended action is to approve the acceptance of the grant and match and authorize the mayor and the city clerk to execute the grant agreement and required certifications and documentations on behalf of the city.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Miller, second by Councilmember Joyner. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. We have a 16D, and I'm going to call on our attorney, Mr. Rose.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I need to report on the settlement of the Landis Falcon claim, which was approved earlier in closed session. That settlement has now been concluded, and I am required to announce the terms of that settlement. Dr. Falcon has resigned her employment with the city. She was paid $500 for a release of all claims. The city agreed to pay her, as she was entitled to, 37.5 hours of compensation for sick leave, subject to all lawful withholdings. The dollar amount of that was $2,307.69. And finally, she received the gross amount of her unused vacation, which was 39.8104 hours, and the dollar amount of that equivalents to $2,449.87. The documents have all been signed and the settlement has been concluded. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Just one more item, remind everybody that this weekend is the Down East Viking Classic here in Rocky Mount. Anybody know what time the game is? I have forgotten.
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock. So again, if you hadn't bought your tickets, it's not still not too late. Thank you all for being here.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, before we
Yes.
close, I got something I really need to say.
Okay.
Thank you. I was trying to, I was considering addressing the question that oftentimes turns into an innuendo. So I thought that it's best that I just address it up front so that I don't have to come back after the headline that we'll probably read tomorrow. First of all, I'd like everyone to understand that when you discuss OIC, you discuss the city of Rocky Mount. The city of Rocky Mount was faced in the mid-60s with the same upheaval that all of America was going through related to civil rights. And it was the city of Rocky Mount's Human Relations Commission and the director of Human Relations that read an article in Jet Magazine about an innovative approach to civil rights that was founded by a pastor in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania called Reverend Dr. Leon Howard Sullivan. Dr. Sullivan created a movement between black churches and industries in finding pathways to employment for people who had been intentionally disfranchised from work. Pastors got together with community and tried to work with people who led industry. When industry did not respond, people withheld their money and their support from purchasing products that industry made. And so was the beginning of the term boycott created. We called it selective patronage. From that point forward, OICs were flourishing across the United States. That was 1964. And in 1969, the city of Rocky Mount worked with black business people in the city, sent a delegation to Philadelphia, and got permission from OICs of America to found Rocky Mount OIC. The individuals that helped work with the founding of OIC also worked with moving this entire city forward. This year marks our 50th anniversary. It was OIC who worked with the city of Rocky Mount to obtain the former Booker T. Washington High School complex so that the city could have ownership of that. The only way the city of Rocky Mount even owned the property was because the U.S. Department of Education had a requirement that for all those properties that were surplus, that were victims of a good thing called integration. Integration meant that black students left black schools and went to white schools and integrated white schools, while the black schools were surplus. Many of them fell defunct, and many of them were torn down and had to find other methods. OIC occupied that space, and in so doing, the city of Rocky Mount was able to obtain a great opportunity to expand its parks and recreation program. And the deal was, and it's true and it's documented history, I have evidence and proof, and people who live to tell the story, that the city of Rocky Mount obtained the property, and from that point forward, it's been in productive use ever since. Interesting to note, OIC has also worked with every business and industry that's come into this city, starting in 1960s all the way to today. We provide job training and programs and development. We also work with almost every community organization that wants a place and a space, and don't charge people to do community education and opportunities for enrichment. So when you talk OIC and you talk relationships with city government, it's something that's documented, it's historic, and we're just continuing through on what has been begun. And as it relates to improvements in that building, our agreement, which preceded me, was that the city of Rocky Mount takes care of capital enhancements and improvements, and OIC takes care of everything else on the inside as it relates to our program and as it relates to the building efficacy. So major systems are the city's responsibilities, just like every other city-owned building. And the speaker was correct that the city does own the building 402 East Virginia Street. That is absolutely correct. It is correct that we have a lease, and it is correct that we keep it up well. It is correct that we provide access to the full community, and it is correct that we work hard to make sure that everybody takes opportunity of that. We're celebrating our 50th year. We're going to wrap up everything at the end of the year with a great program that will give our history and folks who work along with it. I want to say that OIC's greatest cheerleader in this community was Mayor Fred Turnage. If you don't believe me, go look at the stock records. And as far as wearing too many hats, nobody has complained when I've served as board chairs for their organizations, made sure that their organizations were represented and given opportunity. And the only time it seems to make a difference is when the people that are being helped perhaps are not following an agenda of exclusion. So that's all I'll say for that issue today. And if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to provide inspiration and information that's accurate. Thank you.
I have one question of the city manager. The Cokie Road building, the Judicial Center, I think was an old May Gorham school. Used to be Edgecombe School, I think back in the early years in the 20s. And that we do upfit and upgrades in that facility as well. I think we just replaced the roof.
Yes, sir.
On that, and I forgot the dollar amount. Do you remember?
I don't remember the exact dollar amount, but considered to be quite expensive. And our improvements to that building are continuing in this fiscal year to include a feasibility study or space study of the facility, because the occupants there, the entire judicial services system has requested additional space. They're actually running out of space. And so when you weigh the future for those services at Rocky Mount, and we, the staff, has taken the position along with the judicial personnel to try to use as much as we can, as opposed to trying to find another location or even building another building. But it is quite expensive to preserve as well as to use these facilities.
Thank you. I was just showing the correlation that we are invested in our buildings that's owned by the city, especially those older schools that have been turned over to the city of Rocky Mount. Thank you.
And the facility that you just mentioned is used by Nash County Court and Edgecombe County Court as Rocky Mount site.
That's correct.
Any other comments?
All managed by the city, all funded and managed by the city.
If not, we want to thank you all for being here. We are going into a closed session for a personnel matter and attorney-client privilege, and need a motion to go into closed session. Motion by Councilmember Rogers, second by Councilmember Knight. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?